Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new show right here on the YouTube channel. This show is for the people. This show is for everyone that loves women's footy. This show is the VFLW Game Changers. I repeat, welcome to the VFLW Game Changers. I'm your host, Scoops, the sole admin of Scoops. Now, this show will be all things VFLW State League footy. You know, I'm always across all the State League competitions, and for a while, it's been in the works for a while to do a State League show for the VFLW competition. I attended a fair few games last year. I know a lot of the players. I know a lot of the ins and outs between each club, and I thought, why not cover it in full detail? There's always posts here and there, and match day vlogs and everything like that, and that will still all continue. But welcome to the VFLW Game Changers. I'm your host, Scoops, and hopefully I'll have a co-host throughout the year because that's always been the plan on the AFLW show and my AFL show. That has always been the plan, to have a co-host. I like doing it on my own, but I would always love to have someone side by side so we can gel. This show is also for the people. So anyone that's in the VFLW that would love to appear on this show, or an interview or a goal kicking challenge, please send me a message on Instagram, AFL Info Live, and we'll get things sorted. Now, how this episode will be run today. Tomorrow, on Good Friday, is the first game of the VFLW season. Now, I will run this show very similar to some of my other shows, but some new segments on this show, which will include me going through not only the games coming and gone, so previewing and reviewing the games that's gone and upcoming. I will be exclusively revealing to you all, just like the AFLW show, just like my AFL show, there will be the Scoops VFLW medal crowned at the end of the home and away season. You heard it here first. The Scoops VFLW medal for the first time ever. And it's going to be one you do not want to miss with that vote count at the end of the VFLW season. I will be having my regular Scoops VFLW Team of the Week as well, obviously from next week's show onwards, as that's always a Team of the Week is always a thing that is heavily debated no matter what competition or sport it is. So that's what we'll be doing on this show as well. And I've been going on some season predictions, including my ladder predictions, my Coleman medal winner tip, the leading goal kicker, and my Brownlow, the VFLW Best and Fairest player predictions. And I'm going to go through some players in each of all the 12 VFLW clubs and who I feel will be some players to watch out for in season 2025. So, what shall I do first? Should I do my ladder prediction first, or my players to watch out for, or preview round one? What I will say, though, it is a 12-team VFLW competition. The top 6 make finals. That's what I want to make clear. So welcome to the VFLW Game Changers. So let's go through my season ladder predictions. Scoops 2025 VFLW season predictions. So before I go and do the ladder predictions, I want to go through my leading goal kicker and Brownlow tip. Okay, so I think this choice was pretty obvious for me. The person who I feel will be the 2025 VFLW leading goal kicker winner will be Nike de Jock from the North Melbourne VFLW side. Nike was the equal leading goal kicker with Monique Di Bateo from Darebin. I think Nike will be the sole winner of the leading goal kicker for the VFLW competition. She should have been drafted by a AFLW club. I know she's been on the radar of a few clubs. I feel like, you know, the agile and the speed, her talent is on show each and every week for the Roos in the VFLW competition. She kicked 4 goals in the VFLW Grand Final last year over the Bulldogs. She has the X factor. Her opponents can't catch up with her speed and her agility, her run. She kicks lots of goals every week. She can run and tackle, and versatility is so important. So I don't understand how Nike to Jock is not on an AFLW list so far. It astonishes me how Nike is not on a list at all. But I feel she will win the leading goal kicker for the VFLW competition. Now, my prediction for the VFLW best and fairest winner from the Box Hill Hawks, Maddie Torpy. Now, Maddie, like Nike, represented Victoria in the Victoria VFLW versus Sanford W competition on the weekend, which Victoria won pretty comfortably by around 4 to 5 goals. And these two were on show in Adelaide in Gather Round, and they did really well. I feel like Maddie, she was the number one ruck this year in the competition. Well, it's proven that she was chosen as the number one ruck and the only ruck to compete for VFLW against Sanford W. She was really, really dominant in that game. And she was the best ruckman in the VFLW competition last year. She was at Sandringham, well, Southern Saints, which is now Sandringham Zebras, which is St Kilda's VFLW alignment side. Maddie was at Sandy Dragons before that. So she's only 20 this year. She should also be on an AFLW list this year, or before this year, before the year before as well. I don't know how she's not on the list now. There is injury replacement players, so VFLW players could get taken to a VFLW, from the VFLW to an AFLW list spot. And Maddie Torpy will get votes because she gets a lot of disposal. She doesn't just get the hit outs. She's agile in the ruck too, like Nike is up forward. And Maddie is just a terrific player, terrific person, and one of the big key marquee signings for the VFLW competition this year that's not from an AFLW player or ex-AFLW player. Maddie Torpy is my prediction for the VFLW best and fairest. Bookmark it. Providing she doesn't get picked up by another AFLW club during the season, I feel Maddie Torpy will win the VFLW best and fairest at the end of the year. And I think some people may say it's a bold call. It's not a bold call for me. She killed it last year before a knee injury at the back half of the year. You know, she was getting 3 votes in some games before the injury. She was the best ruck in the competition. I think she still got all Australian ruck, and she missed like the back end of the season. It's like 5 games I think she missed. So Maddie Torpy for me, VFLW best and fairest winner. Right. Now let's go through my ladder predictions for the VFLW season starting tomorrow night. Now, like every other show, I'll go, I'm going to go from the bottom. So in 12th place, I have gone some bold calls, by the way, and I'll explain why. In 12th place, I've gone the KC Demons. Plain and simple. They weren't that good last year. You know, they didn't recruit basically anyone. You know, a lot of clubs bring in a lot of players, but like I feel like Casey didn't improve their list. In fact, they made it even a bit worse with who they lost, and they didn't really gain too many big names or players that I feel like would impact the team pretty well. I was raffling this spot up for about 4 teams. You know, and I went with Casey. I don't feel like of the 4 sides above them or the 3 other sides above them, I don't feel like they improved their list at all dramatically to the point where I could be confident of them being out of the bottom 4 and potentially even the bottom. I mean, it was a line ball call. I could have put the 3 other teams above them, but I've gone with Casey. I just don't feel like they improved. You know, they weren't scoring much last year either in terms of goals. They were leaking big scores compared to previous seasons. They lost a lot of players last year. I don't see where the massive improvement is going to come. So I have Casey in 12th place. In 11th place, I have Carlton. Again, they lost some players over the signing period, which only finished recently. They didn't really gain many players that I feel like, again, that will impact. They lost Mel Staunton, who is now Geelong's VFLW captain. So they lost one of their key players as well. Some players that were on Carlton's AFLW list that were playing with them that have been delisted have now moved on to other VFLW clubs or elsewhere. So they've lost those important players to their side as well. They've had a few injuries. They've recruited some players, which I'll mention in players to watch out for. But they haven't really changed their team much, only really lost players. Again, they were around the bottom last year. They weren't fighting for a top 6 spot. or top 5 spot it was, I think. No, top 6 it was last year as well. The year before that was top 5, I think. But yeah, top 6. I don't see them getting anywhere near it. Again, like Casey, I feel like they could be on the bottom, and it wouldn't shock me if they would. I've just put them ahead of Casey purely for the fact of they've got a few experienced players that have been in the competition for a while that will go better than Casey will. So 11th, Carlton. In 10th place, I've gone the Darebin Falcons. Now, they have no AFLW alignment. You know, for a side that on the outside, people will go, well, they're not making finals. They'll be lucky to win games. But last year, they competed with some teams and they absolutely won some of those games. Like, remember Sandy, Southern Saints at the time? I'm pretty sure they lost to Darebin off the top of my head. So, regardless, Darebin were competing in some games where people wouldn't give them a chance. Either they won or they were very close and almost upset some good teams. So I see a little bit more improvement from them. Now, they've got a similar side to last year, so the stability is there. They've signed former Carlton AFLW player Lulu Beattie, who's only 21. She's a defender who I thought was harshly let go by Carlton, which I don't agree with. I think she should still be playing on their list at Carlton AFLW, but she's not. She's at Darebin. Even though she's 21, she'll be a key part in Carlton's side. Or sorry, should have been in Carlton's side. Will be a key part in Darebin's side, in the back line in particular. So, I mean, I see them doing something similar to last year, which isn't at the bottom. It's near the bottom, but I see the improvement. I feel like they're narrowing down their margins in their losses, which is a key part, and that's a starting point. So I feel like they won't make finals, but they won't be bottom. So I'll have to see Darebin in 10th place. In 9th place, I have Essendon. Now, 9th and 8th place was really hard for me. It was 50-50. Geelong and Essendon played each other in a practice match recently, which Geelong won, surprisingly. So I've got Essendon just below them purely off that alone, because it just looked like Essendon, they have lost a lot of players. I just feel like Ruben Mahoney, they lost some players that have gone through to, VFLW clubs, other VFLW clubs. Abby McDonald, they got from Geelong's AFLW side. So that's one positive for them. But they've never really been a dominant side, Essendon's VFLW. They lost a few players. They gained a few. So they are going to stagnate, I feel, again. They won't impact the finals, you would think, anyway. Let's see if they can prove me wrong, but I don't see them making finals at all. So that's the Bombers in 9th place. In 8th place, I got Geelong. Now, Geelong is also like Essendon, the side I could easily see making the bottom 4. I don't see Geelong making finals either. They weren't good at all last year. They hardly scored goals in some games. They were one of the bottom sides last year. In fact, they might have been on the bottom. But this preseason win against Essendon is giving me a little bit of hope that they may be okay. Now, they haven't got the biggest names, but sometimes that's a good thing. I don't think they'll make finals. In fact, I could easily see them on the bottom, to be honest, and I'll think about it a bit more and more. But it's so even, that bottom part of the ladder. I could see any one of those sides from Geelong down finishing on the bottom. But I've given them the chance here to see some improvement. It might be a bold call. Now that I think about it, they struggled to score goals in like 3 weeks in a row last year. They might have scored 1 goal in 4 weeks, which is not great. So if they can beat Essendon in the scratch match, maybe there is a bit more improvement. Now, there's some players that didn't get contracts that were there last year in some capacity, which astonishes me. That you can play for Geelong last year, do all right, not get a go this year, and they're a struggling side, yet they want good players and they don't pick up good players. Mel Staunton's coming, who will be their captain, who is going to be a key part crossing over from Carlton's VFLW side, as I just said earlier. In 7th place, I got last year's grand finalists, the Western Bulldogs. So that would mean they don't make finals being a top 6 format. They've had a lot of players leave. They've had Jamie Henry leave. They've had Courtney Ugle leave. They had Mia Clifford leave. Dom Carbone, their captain from last year's, left. I mean, I went to a lot of their games and saw a lot of improvement, which you'll hear from players I mentioned to look out for this season. But a mass exodus at the Bulldogs. Something's not going right there. I feel like now, this is just from my opinion, I feel like they just, kept the same players in, and they didn't give players that earned an opportunity to go. They seem to stick with the same size. Sure, they made it the grand final, but I just feel like that made a lot of people unhappy. And, I just, you got to put that down to selection in integrity. You got to put players in that deserve a go. You don't just hand players games off their name. They've got to actually earn it. And look at this. At the result of that, some players are left. And they always have a big change of players recently. And some of the players I just mentioned that either have gone to another VFLW club or they're not playing at all. Now, Keely Hardingham, who was their main ruck, she got picked up by the Western Bulldogs in the AFLW competition. She may play some games throughout the season, who was their ruck. So who is going to be their ruck this year? That is their problem. They've got a good back line still, I feel, but every other area is severely impacted. So I don't know what they're going to do at the Bulldogs. Something they were known for is their midfield work. Sarah Skinner was another key part of their midfield. She's no longer at the club. I only just found this out before. I didn't realise that she was no longer there. They lost her as well, who was their best midfielder with Dom Carbone. Their two best midfielders are out. Their experienced player, Courtney Ugle, is gone, and Mia Clifford, gone. Jamie Henry was one of their big recruits from the VFLW competition from the Swan Districts. She's out and back to Swan Districts. So, and then they haven't really gained anyone in return. So I just don't see how they make finals. It's going to be a long year for the Western Bulldogs. They might scrape in for finals, but they're not going to do any damage if this is the way they're going. And according to their practice matches, they haven't gone that great at all. So, I don't see them making the grand final, that's for sure. I'll be shocked if they made the grand final, and credit to them if they do, but I don't see them making it at all. So that's the Bulldogs just outside of the top 6 in 7th place. In 6th place, I've got the Port Melbourne Football Club. Now, Port Melbourne, they've got some decent players. I feel like, again, they've got a list where they've got strong VFLW list of players. There's stability there. They've kept a lot of players that they've had in previous seasons. They're not like some clubs where they lose 15, 20 players and they gain 5. Their stability is a key part for them. With the other sides losing players they've got below them and just being not that good compared to them, I've kept Port Melbourne in the 6. There could be an opportunity where I see Port Melbourne not making the top 6, but I've got way more faith in them than I have all those other sides below them. And with the mass exodus of the Bulldogs, I have Port Melbourne ahead of the Bulldogs as well. So Port Melbourne just in the top 6 in 6th place. Now, this is where I feel the top 5 are very, very strong going into this year, in particular the top 4. But in 5th place, I got Williamstown. Williamstown in the VFLW competition have always been a strong team. They've always been pretty consistent. Their stability with their list is always there. Credit to their coach, Liam Kavanagh, who does a really good job down at Williamstown. Ruben Mahoney's a big key recruit from the Bombers VFLW side, formerly at the Swan Districts as well, in the VFLW competition 2 years ago, moved across to the Bombers last year, and now Williamstown should be a key part in their midfield. Emily Eves is another good player through their midfield. We've got a lot of good forwards and experienced players as well, through the back line, through the midfield, and through the forward line, which is why they made finals last year. They're a good side. They didn't go to the grand final, which I feel like they could, but the top 4 teams are going to be hard to knock out of the top 4. In 4th place, I have the Collingwood Football Club. Now, Collingwood just went on a recruiting spree. Talia Fallows, Lily Rose Williamson, a few other ex-AFLW players, Courtney Jones. There's a few others, Molly Eastman, who are all ex-AFLW players from last year. I just don't see how they don't make finals and how they're not in the top 4. The Pies are going to be a force to be reckoned with in this season. And they've had a lot of list changes, but it's been for the better. They've had a lot of players. Last year, I believe, at the top of my head, they had only 2 players retained from their previous year. So they had every single player delisted or moved on, besides 2 or 3 players going into last year. And you probably saw that. They tried to gel a little bit last year, but now they've got a lot of players in this year. Then on top of those ex-AFLW players, like Lily Rose Williamson, Natalia Fallows, Courtney Jones, Molly Eastman, etc., they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, the Collingwood VFLW side. I could even put them higher, but I've got them in 4th place for now. In 3rd place, I have the Box Hill Hawks. Now, talk about a recruiting spree. The Box Hill Hawks just recruited anyone that wanted to play VFLW football, it seemed. I reckon they've signed 50 players. That's not an exaggeration. If you go follow their posts on Instagram, put up so many player signings in 3 players in one post. Like, there was like 3 or 4 every week for a good month or two. It's like, they had a lot of turnover, but their recruiting has been really good. But the problem is, how are you going to fit them all on the side? Nat Exxon, the former Saint, forward, an experienced leader, will be a good part for them in the side. Matty Torpy, Mia Zielinski up forward. There's going to be a lot of key players. Stacia Stevenson, who didn't get drafted, along with Emma Stilve, both from the Eastern Rangers. There'll be good parts in their side as well. But yeah, they're going to be very strong and hard to beat. They were good last year, and they're going to be even better this year, especially with some ex-AFLW players joining the club as well, and some Sandy Dragons players and Eastern Rangers. So they've got that connection there, Hawthorn and Eastern Rangers. So there's a few Eastern Rangers players playing for Box Hill Hawks this year. In second place, I have Sandy Zebras, formerly known as the Southern Saints, which is St Kilda's VFLW alignment side. Sandy, talk about a recruiting spree. It's for the better. New coach Lachlan Harris, who is an AFLW assistant coach at the Saints. Erica Fowler, Ellery Morris, Lauren Brazzali, Sophie Locke, and there's probably a few more I forgot off the top of my head. All ex-AFLW players. Jordan Membry, Ellery Morris. So many good recruits for Sandy. Some VFLW players, including Izzy Hartog. Some players that have dominated in local footy and have been a key part there. They've retained a lot of players, which is great. But they've got rid of players that don't want to be there. That's great. A whole change. I think Lachlan Harris will be one of the coaches of the year, because so far the practice matches have been awesome. Smashing Williamstown, which is not hard. Which is not easy. Sorry. It's not easy to smash Williamstown or even beat them. So that's a credit to Sandy's side so far. Then the other practice match, I think it was Carlton, who I feel will be bad anyway. They beat with like 50, 60 points in 6 quarters or 5 quarters. So looking up for the Sandy Zebras, last year they were bottom 2 contender. Now they're a top 2 contender. I kid you not, this recruiting has been fantastic. The practicing matches have been fantastic. Now hopefully they can deliver this Saturday against Darebin. So that leaves one team. In first place, I have North Melbourne. Last year's grand final winners. I feel like they haven't lost a whole lot of players. Jen Lawson-Tavern from Carlton AFLW's joined them. Stella Reid from Richmond's AFLW. That just makes their team even stronger. They've kept who they needed, Courtney Ugle-Hagan and Mia Clifford coming from the Dogs VFLW side. So they've strengthened that side a lot more. So I just don't see how they're not on top of the ladder come the end of the home and away season. Sandy, Box Hill and Collingwood are a strong top 4. And that's exactly where I think it'll be. So there it is there on the screen for you all. Again, 12th place, Casey Demons. 11th, Carlton. 10th, Darebin. 9th, Essendon. 8th, Geelong. 7th, the Western Bulldogs. And the top 6, which would make finals if this was to be correct. Port Melbourne, Williamstown in 5th. Collingwood in 4th. Box Hill Hawks in 3rd place. 2nd, Sandy Zebras. And 1st, North Melbourne. Comment down below what you think of my ladder predictions and my best and fairest prediction and my leading goal kicker predictions. Now, I am Scoops, the host of the VFLW Game Changers. I like that name, so that is the name I plan to stick with, unless I feel like changing it, because I can change it however many times I want. All right, so now I'm going to go through some players that I want to highlight. It's all about the players, so let me go highlight some players to watch out for this season. Now, some of these players will be ex-AFLW players, but I'll explain why they are players to watch out for, excluding that they're ex-AFLW players only. I feel like some of them can play a key part in some sides. So let's start with the Sandy Zebras. Sophie Locke will be one of the finds of this VFLW competition. Soph was really harshly done by Hawthorn. Just couldn't get a game for most of last season at Hawthorn. They made finals, went out in straight sets. Soph did have an injury for a little bit. Small forward, brings the energy. She's a really good player. And from all reports, a fantastic person. And I've met her once or twice before, and I can agree to that she's a great person. But, just a live wire up forward. I hear from the practicing matches she's up and about, being a key part in the Sandy forward line. And, you know, how she's not on Hawthorn's AFLW list or any other AFLW list for that matter is astonishing. She will be a game changer. If you notice the title of the video, or not the title of the video, the title of this show, Game Changer. And that's what Sophie Locke will be for Sandy. And I can't wait to see how she goes. She could even be a contender for the leading goal kicker, Soph. Lauren Brazzali, who will be the Sandy captain, former Collingwood AFLW player, so played through the midfield, played in that VFLW versus SANFLW game, did really well through the midfield and half-back line. Loz will be a good addition for Sandy as well, and to watch out for. Another one is Imogen Evans, another ex-Collingwood AFLW player, was a replacement player last year and the year before that. Spent 2 years on a Collingwood AFLW list. And I thought she held her own when she did play. She can be a good player, can play a few roles, I feel, maybe forward and mid. And the experience she'll bring for being at Collingwood for 2 years, just like the other names I mentioned and am going to mention, will be a good part to the Sandy side. Erica Fowler, leadership experience is what she brings, and versatility. Playing a few roles, I see Erica is playing for Sandy this year, playing a bit of forward and ruck and backline. So it can play all three roles. So versatility, very important. And experienced players, Erica Fowler, who I've had on the podcast too, will be a key part to that Sandy side, and the versatility is very important. Ellery Morris, another one that shows versatility, mainly as a key forward for Collingwood FAW in her career. And in the back end of last year, was playing as a key defender. And I thought held her own. Where she plays for Sandy, time will tell. Another one, though, like Erica, that can play a few positions. Now, also, Jordan Membry from Gold Coast's AFLW side, a good forward, a goal kicker. Sandy have got a pretty good forward line going in with Sophie Locke, Ellery Morris, and Jordan Membry, just to name a few. Like, that's very, very dangerous for VFLW opposition. Going against experienced former AFLW players, Ellery Morris played a handful of games, and so did Jordan Membry. And they got leadership and experience along with the other players I mentioned. Soph will be the live wire up forward. Jordan Membry will kick goals as well. It's going to be very dangerous and a potent forward line for Sandy. So they're the players at Sandy to watch out for. Now, so I'll put them on the screen there. So the next team I'm going to mention is North Melbourne. Now, Nike DeJock, who I've just mentioned a fair few times already. A live wire, a goal kicker, speed, agility. Her mark overhead is elite. Her running is also elite. Elite player is Nike DeJock. Should be on an AFLW list. I cannot believe she is not on one right now, but she's one to keep an eye on. Jen Lawson-Tavern, who was a key defender at Carlton, AFLW. I thought she was harshly done by. I mean, you see the delistings and, some you expect and some you may expect but don't deserve it. And I thought Jen Lawson-Tavern should have been on Carlton's list, considering Carlton's got a bad AFLW backline, that Jen Lawson-Tavern would have stayed there. But unfortunately, she was cut. She's joined North Melbourne, and again, they just keep on growing their list, North Melbourne's VFLW side, and she's going to be a key part in their backline. Stella Reid. Now, Stella Reid was a good player at Richmond when given the opportunity. She didn't get many opportunities last year. Now, if you recall, the best AFLW goal I ever got captured on film was from Stella Reid at Icon Park. Still to this day, I will never forget that goal. Had players around her, and she got that goal, Stella Reid. It was generally a stellar goal. And you know what? Here it is. I've got it queued up for you all. See? I'm always prepared. Here is that goal I'm talking about and referring to. That stellar goal from Stella Reid. And just know what North fans are going to expect from Stella Reid.
Hi. Oh, yes. Boom. Unbelievable. And I got it on camera too. That's one for the highlights reel for sure. Boy, oh boy, wowee. Stella Reid kicked.
Stella Reid with that stellar goal indeed. That's what North VFW fans can expect from Stella Reid going into 2025. And the other North Melbourne player I want to highlight is Courtney Ugle. who has come from the Western Bulldogs VFLW side, an experienced player, plays off the half-back and play off the wing. Again, like I said, she was a key recruit from North Melbourne as well, along with Jen Lawson, Tavern and Stella Reid. They're the grand finalists from last year, and they've gotten even stronger. So I don't see how they, again, can't finish on top. And Courtney will be a good player and a good experienced player, leadership she brings. There's Courtney. It'll be a good addition for the Roos. Right, another player or players I'm going to highlight is from Box Hill. Again, Maddie Torpy. Potential Brownlow winner or League Best and Fairest winner. Ruck, recruited from Sandy Zebras, aka Southern Saints. He'll be a gun. I already mentioned before, like with Nike, how good Maddie will be. Should be on an AFLW list now. Geelong do have a list on the AFLW, so wouldn't shock if Maddie is the one, as they do also need a ruck. They've got Katie Tipping. I feel like Maddie Torpy should be on a list, and Geelong need a ruck, and they've got a list spot available, so it should be Maddie Torpy. Should have been drafted before this season even begun, but here we are. But yeah, she'll be fantastic for Box Hill if she's there the whole season. In the ruck, her agility, she gets a lot of disposals as well, along with a lot of hit outs, and she impacts games, hence why I have her winning my VFLW Best and Fairest. And will potentially win the Scoops medal as well. We'll have to wait and see. Now, a few different names I haven't mentioned so far today. Paula Povic, who was at Box Hill last year. She's a tall player. She can play through the ruck. She can play as a key defender and as a key forward. So again, versatility is very, very, very important. And Paula Povic has that. She played in the NT League during this off-season in the VFLW, was a premiership player at St. Mary's in the NTFL League. Started that season as a key defender and done really well for herself. Played some games up forward for Box Hill last year and in the ruck. Beat Ali Morfitt last year in the VFLW competition, who is probably the best young ruck in the AFLW competition, is Ali Morfitt, and Paula Povic beat her in one of her first few games in her VFLW career last year, and she's only 20 as well. And Ali Morfitt is probably the best ruck in the AFLW competition, and Paula beat her last year, which is fantastic for Paula and credit to her. If you can beat Ali Morfitt, you have what it takes to be on an AFLW list, and hopefully Paula can continue that great form she had for the 4 games she played last year and beat Ali Morfitt, then played in the NTFL League, was one of the All-Australian ruckmans in that competition, was a premiership player for St. Mary's. They won that grand final after the siren, and she brings the energy and should be a good addition to the Box Hill side. Her and Maddie in tandem could be very, very dangerous for opposition if they're both in the side together playing that role. Stacia Stevenson, who was on Box Hill's list last year, but through the alliance of the Eastern Rangers, a forward who was unlucky not to be drafted this year, could play up forward and through the midfield. I feel like Stacia could be a key addition to the Box Hill side if selected. Mia Zielinski, a goal kicker, a forward who knows how to kick goals, kicked, I think, 30-odd goals in her draft year in the Coates Talent League that year, won a leading goal kicker for the Sandy Dragons, wasn't drafted, same year as Maddie, same club as Maddie as well, Maddie Torpy, that is, who I happened to have both of those on the podcast back then, in a goal kicking challenge, and they can both kick a footy a long way. Torpy by name, she can generally kick torps. And Mia can kick a long ball as well. They're both decent shots at goal as well. So they're going to be a key part to this VFLW competition. The two best friends in tandem at Box Hill could be a very dangerous duo. Again, like with Paula and Maddie in the ruck forward role, Mia could be on the goal kicking side as well. Now let's move on to Collingwood, and they've got a fair few. I'm going to mention some names again, and some new names I haven't mentioned this evening so far. Collingwood, Lily Rose Williamson will be a bona fide star for this competition. How Essendon let her go and hardly gave her the opportunity astonishes me still. She proved that and proved Essendon wrong in one game, in the state game versus SA in Gatherround on the weekend, Friday night last week. Kicked 2 goals, had like 14 touches, probably had like 6 tackles, had a great smother in that game. Wasn't given an opportunity at all at Essendon to shine at all. And she'll get this at Collingwood, and she should be on an AFLW list come the start of the season with these injury replacement plays and everything like that. But we'll have to see. She'll be a key part to the Pies forward line, Her tackle, her pressure, and everything like that is elite and should be on an AFLW list very soon yet again. And potentially for the same for Talia Fallows, who was at Hawthorn's AFLW list. Didn't get many opportunity last year since Daniel Webster came in at the Hawks. Did that for a few players, Daniel Webster, like Charlotte Baskaran, and Mattia Breed. Name a few. But Talia kicked 4 goals in that state game, was best on ground, and was dominant. And dangerous with Lily up forward. They played in the state game together, and their tandem work together. The 2 in tandem was dominant, they were. And they're in one side at the Collingwood VFLW side. Dangerous duo up forward. Lily Rose Williamson and Talia Fallows. The captain from the Bulldogs VFLW side, who is now the Collingwood VFLW captain, Dom Carbone, a midfielder, a superstar. How the Bulldogs lost her astonishes me still. How they even let her go if they had a choice. She's going to be a star for them. That's why I have the Pies really highly rated in this ladder prediction. I was really close to putting them second, if not even first. That's how highly I rate their selections. 2 names I haven't mentioned yet. Courtney Jones, who was cut by Richmond in the AFLW, and I couldn't believe it. Was given some opportunities last year, a little bit at Richmond's AFLW side. The years before last year, she was doing really well. I feel like it's a bit harsh that Courtney was let go. I feel like they could have kept her on the list. When Amelia Yasir was wanting to go to Essendon and they didn't allow that to happen, they could have left Courtney on the list and let Amelia Yasir go where she wanted to go. They didn't. They run the gauntlet, Richmond, and it paid off because they got Yasir back luckily in the end, which is great for her and great for the Tigers. But Courtney Jones could have stayed as well. And she'll want to prove Richmond wrong. And I think she may do that in this VFLW competition, Courtney Jones. Another name to look out for is Millie Lang. She was from the Greater Western Victoria Rebels, was in the state side for the AFLW Academy last year, was also representing Vic Country and done really well. I was at that state game where they played WA and SA, and the game Millie was playing in, she was really good. She was really good throughout that whole Vic Country state championships, the AFLW Nationals under-18 championships. How she didn't get a list spot is astonishing. I had her in my top 30 for my power rankings. I was really confident she was going to get picked up. I can't believe that she hasn't. But she'll definitely be one to watch out for. And another name to watch out for, also for the Pies, is Molly Eastman, who's now only recently officially signed with the Pies VFLW side, the former Richmond forward. Another one joining Courtney from Richmond to Collingwood, from the AFLW Richmond to VFLW Collingwood. Another one, ex-AFLW player. The Pies are loaded with stars everywhere now. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And Molly will provide some great work in the forward line and maybe push up the ground a little bit as well. The next club I'm going to go through is Williamstown for players to watch out for, which include Ruby Mahoney, who is from Essendon's VFW side, averaged around 20 disposals last year. She can tackle. She can get all the clearances, the tackles, the contested possessions. Rubes is a good player, and I feel like this is going to be a breakout year to potentially be on an AFLW list at the end of the year. Neve Crowley, who's a young player, a tall player, plays up forward mainly, but she always seems to pop up. I was at a fair few Williamstown games, like Bulldogs games, and I thought Neve, particularly in the final series in the back end of the year for Williamstown, she was very influential. She may not have the big numbers, but when she does have the ball, she does something with it. And some players, that's not the case, but for her, it is. She's fantastic. Could be a draft smoky coming at the end of the year if she has a breakout year or a replacement player, because I believe she's 21, so she can be signed up by an AFLW club at any point in time. So she could be a good player, or she will be a good player, for Williamstown this year, and maybe on an AFLW list if she has another breakout season. Emily Eves is a midfielder, a bull of a midfielder. I was at one of the games against Collingwood. She got her head smashed on the ground and got straight back up. I think she had a footy kicked in her face as well and just shrugged it off like it was nothing. And she's always been a key midfielder for them the last few years in particular, and she will be a key midfielder for them yet again. Move on to Port Melbourne now. 3 players for me to watch out for Port Melbourne. Georgia Booth, who plays for Bendigo Spirit in the women's basketball as well. She's been at Port Melbourne in the VFLW, Georgia Booth, for a while. She plays basketball as well and does pretty well at that. Just won the premiership for the Bendigo Spirit in the WNBL Basketball League. So well done for her and being a part of the premiership winning side. Moving back to footy now and still playing basketball as well. So juggling the two. So I don't know how much of the competition Georgia will play VFLW, but she should definitely stay in the competition because she's a good player and a good midfielder and is a key part in their midfield and side overall. Molly Maloney, an unknown name for some, but she was at the club last year and she's a good player and she played her part, which I think you just need to at least play your role, and Molly plays that well and she can continue to do that. She'll be another key player for the Port Melbourne side this year. Ava Seaton, who's a midfielder, again, like Georgia, just plays a part as a key part in their midfield, in the leadership group too, I believe. So, and again, a key part in their team, a good midfielder, and accumulates the ball and gets a lot of the clearances and kicks a goal here and there as well. So, key part for Port Melbourne. Now, the Western Bulldogs, as I said, I saw probably 6, 7, 8 games of the Bulldogs last year. So, it's fair to say I know a lot of these players pretty well and how they play and who's good and who should be drafted. And all these names I'm going to mention that were there last year, I could see being drafted at some point in their career. The first one is Steph Asiak, who is a defender who is now their captain after Dom Carbone left. Steph is a really good rebounding halfback, can play on the wing as well. How she wasn't picked up, I'm surprised. A really good player. How she wasn't in the state team as well, I'm a bit surprised as well. But here we are. Tasman Crook, a key defender who just does her job every week. As I said, I saw so many games of the Bulldogs, and a key reason why they made the grand final was of that backline. Steph, Tamsin, and Trinity, which I want to get to shortly. Very good player is Tasman Crook, key defender. Hardly lets her opponent get a goal. I know when they played North Melbourne, not in the grand final, but in the season, her opponent, I think it was Nike or someone else, she did a really good job on, and that's against some really good key forwards in the game, has Tamsin Crook. Marley McLeod, who I rate very highly. Marley is a good player in the Bulldogs forward line, always brought the energy, so a bit like Sophie Locke, if you want to use a comparison. Marley always pops up for a goal or two every game, gets about 8-10 touches, but again, doesn't need a whole lot of it to impact the game. Always part of score involvements and goal assists and everything like that. Marley should be someone that recruiters should be looking at. I've been saying it for a while. If you ever watch anyone matchday vlogs, Marley's a very important figure in that Bulldogs forward line. Of all the mass X's of players at the Bulldogs, Marley is one to definitely now watch out for this year. Trinity Skendris, who was a running halfback, kicked a good goal in the grand final or prelim final that I got on that matchday vlog. Good person too. Good running halfback, can play on the wing. Another one that should have made the state team. Very, very underrated is Trinity. Now, Brooke Ward, who played with Millie Lang at the Greater Western Victoria Rebels in the Coates Talent League last year, 19 this year, had a lot of injuries. And if it wasn't for a lot of injuries in the last 2 years, I mean, she could have been drafted, and she very well likely will in a year or two time. Just hasn't had many games to play, unfortunately, due to some serious injuries. But recruited from the Bulldogs from Ballarat, will be a good addition to the Bulldog side that's had that mass exodus and should get some games for sure. For Geelong, Mel Staunton's a captain from Carlton's VFLW side. An experienced midfielder, and she's going to have to do a lot if Geelong are going to play finals. Poppy Shapp, the same, an experienced player, can play for a few positions forward mid. Will be a key part for Geelong as well. Essendon, Sienna Hobbs from the Bendigo Pioneers. A bit of a surprise that she didn't get picked up on an AFLW list. She'll play for Essendon's VFLW side. A tall player, can play in the ruck, and can play up forward as well. So Sienna Hobbs, one to watch out for the Bombers. Ava Jordan, small in stature, but a very courageous player, tries her heart out. Where's the Roger Federer headband on her head? But she does her role. A midfielder, does really well, and is always racking up a lot of disposals. Scarlett Orrit, hopefully I got that right, Scarlett. I apologise. Could be a key part to the Bombers side this year. Has been in the side pretty much every week and is always a key contributor. So obviously Scarlett's one to watch out for this year. And Layla Prince, she was from Carlton's VFLW side, a key part in their side last year when she was playing. Plays a dual sports player. I believe she plays basketball as well, like Georgia Booth. So, yeah, Layla's good at a few sports and hopefully can be a keeper for the Bombers this year. One to watch out for. Now, the Darebin Falcons, 2 players to watch out for. Lulu Beattie, who I can't stress enough, was harshly let go by Carlton. 21, played 4 games in her AFLW career. But the experience she would have got from being at Carlton for a few seasons is invaluable for players at Darebin who don't have major AFLW players or former AFLW players in their side. Got a few decent experienced VFLW listed players, but they're a very young and inexperienced side. You know, they haven't got the strongest depth, but again, stability in their list is very important. And Lulu is going to play a key role for Darebin this year and could end up making the All-Australian team come the end of the season, which, by the way, I will also do an All-Australian team at the end of this home and away season as well. And Monique Di Matteo, leading goal kicker with Nike to Jock last season, I think it was 20-something goals, is a keeper in their forward line. Always kicks like 3 goals a game, and it's astonishing. That's fantastic work from Monique. One to watch out for sure. Carlton, Octavia Di Donato, former player last year, was at West Coast list last year as an injury replacement player, played some handy games, kicked the winning goal against Carlton in the VFLW competition. So she's one to watch out for sure. Her Eagles teammate from the AFLW, Emily Elkington from West Coast. Very interesting move for her. Moving from WA to VFLW to go play for Octavia, who obviously she built a close connection with, I'm sure, which is why she's playing VFLW for Carlton. One to watch. West Coast didn't give her many opportunities, but she was also injured a fair bit. So we'll have to wait and see how she'll go and what role she'll play at Carlton's VFLW. I'm interested to see what position she plays. Probably midfield with their inexperience everywhere around the ground. Sasha Pearce from the Bendigo Pioneers as well. Like Sienna Hobbs, I'm surprised she wasn't picked up, but she'll play for Carlton's VFLW side. And I'm sure she'll get a lot of games considering the experience I have and new players. And I feel like she definitely should get a go, as she was probably a chance to be drafted. So she definitely will play some games for Carlton's VFLW side. And the final team I'm going to highlight for players to watch out for is Casey Demons. Delaney Madgen, who played the one solitary AFLW game for Melbourne last year as an injury replacement player. I believe it was against the Giants in Frankston. Did all right. Then she was dropped, then wasn't put back in, unfortunately. And now she's not at the Demons AFLW side. So she'll go back now to Casey, and I'm sure she'll do well before she was picked up by Casey. And I remember off the top of my head, Melbourne was saying they didn't want to delist Delaney, but they had no choice because they had to delist one more player, and unfortunately she was the one. And they haven't ruled out picking her up in the future. So if she starts this VFLW season well and Melbourne have a list spot available, who knows what could happen, or get picked up somewhere else. And Sarah Darcy, who was a top-up player or injury replacement player at, I can't remember what club it was. I think it might have been, who was it? Was it Melbourne? I think it was Melbourne, actually. Yeah, she did, because she got to her 50th career game in AFLW as a top-up player. She played like 2 or 3 games in a row in the middle part of the year for Melbourne. I think it was when they had all their injuries. Yeah, it was Melbourne. And she had all those injuries, or they had all those injuries, sorry. And she played all right. She got a goal, I believe, in one of those games as well, which was her first AFLW goal in a 50-game career. Congrats to her. An experienced player. Might be her last season or 2, but she'll still be a key part for Casey going into this season for sure. Now, the final topic for today that I'm going to go through is my preview of round 1. Simple as this. So let's do that now, shall we? So preview the round 1 home and away season. All right, so the first game we have is tomorrow at Arden Street, Friday, 9:15 a.m. Good Friday game. North Melbourne hosting Carlton. I'm going to be going for North Melbourne in this one by 36 points. Saturday at Trevor Barker Beach Oval at Sandringham, it's Sandy hosting Darebin Falcons. Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Victorian time. I'll be tipping Sandringham in this one by 17 points. Also on Saturday, 11:05 a.m. at Deakin Uni, which is in Geelong, at Warm Ponds, it's Geelong hosting Box Hill. I'll be tipping Box Hill in this one by 28 points. Also on Saturday, 2:35 p.m. at Casey Fields, it's Melbourne hosting Collingwood, or Casey hosting Collingwood. I'll be tipping the Pies in this one by 48 points. Might be a massive margin, some will say, but that's what I think there. The other last 2 games to go through. Saturday, 4:05 p.m. at ETU Stadium, which is Port Melbourne's ground, North Port Oval, was formerly known as. Port Melbourne hosting Essendon. Ooh, I'll be tipping Port Melbourne this one by 10 points. 10 points. And Sunday, 11:05 a.m. at Whitten Oval, it's the Western Bulldogs hosting Williamstown. Now, last year I would have said this could have been one of the games of the season. This year, with the mass exodus of the Bulldogs players, not so sure. Will they still be all right? This game will be a good key point to know whether the Bulldogs will be good or not, as Williamstown are pretty solid themselves. I'm going to be giving the Bulldogs one chance and one chance only. And if they blow it, then I'll hardly tip them against any decent side again. I'll be tipping the Bulldogs by 2 points. Hope you guys and girls have enjoyed the debut of a brand new show hosted by yours truly, Scoops. They are VFLW Game Changers. Who will be your game changers in this VFLW season in 2025? Thank you for watching. And until next week, take care.